Did Meloni actually lie to protect Italy from Mojtaba's revenge wrath, quietly hiding a much deeper military role than she ever publicly admitted? Does a new report finally reveal exactly how Italy protected Arab Gulf allies from Iranian strikes, using forces Rome never fully disclosed to the public? With Italy's secret Gulf Shield deployment now exposed, the real question becomes who will step in to protect Rome itself if Iran ever decides to retaliate? Has Meloni's confident claim that we said no to the war effectively been shattered within just weeks, once these secret Gulf deployments came fully to light? As Iran's retaliatory missile campaign raised fears across the Gulf, one European nation quietly built an entire defensive shield to protect its regional allies. According to Militarnyi, Italy secretly deployed dedicated air defense forces specifically to protect its Gulf allies from ongoing Iranian missile and drone strikes. This mission reportedly began during the second half of March, right as regional tensions were escalating sharply across the wider Gulf region. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Bahrain had reportedly requested this additional defensive assistance directly from Italy, as Iranian attacks kept mounting. In response, about 400 Italian Air Force personnel were quietly deployed across several Gulf states as part of this defensive mission. This Italian task force went on to support airspace surveillance and broader regional air defense operations throughout the Gulf. King Fahd Air Base in Saudi Arabia was specifically chosen as the main operating base for Italy's fighter jet mission in the region. Italy deployed 4 Eurofighter F-2000A fighter jets as the backbone of its air defense package sent to the Gulf. An E-550A CAEW aircraft was also sent to provide dedicated airborne surveillance and early warning coverage over the region. C-130J and KC-130J aircraft were tasked with supporting essential logistics and transport missions for the entire deployment. N/TPS-77 radar system was specifically deployed in Kuwait to strengthen ground-based tracking and detection capabilities. King Fahd Air Base ultimately hosts the entire Italian fighter detachment, anchoring the country's air presence in Saudi Arabia. Beyond the Air Force, Italy also deployed about 300 Army personnel under a dedicated Arabia operational group to reinforce ground-based defenses. SAMP-T air defense batteries were deployed as a key part of Italy's ground-based shield against incoming missile threats. Kronos radar systems were positioned in Saudi Arabia to sharpen detection and tracking of hostile missiles and drones. An additional Kronos radar unit was also deployed in Bahrain, extending Italy's ground-based surveillance network further across the Gulf. A Skynex air defense battery was separately deployed in the UAE, adding another layer of protection against aerial threats. Together, these systems significantly strengthen regional protection against both ballistic missiles and swarming drone attacks. This entire deployment followed months of sustained Iranian missile and drone attacks that had battered targets across the wider region. Gulf states have faced sustained and mounting security pressure ever since the broader war first escalated back on February 28. This revelation comes just weeks after Italy strongly and repeatedly denied having any direct involvement in the Iran war at all. Italy has sharply criticized NATO chief Mark Rutte for suggesting Rome played a role in Trump's military campaign against Iran. Rome was responding to comments made by Rutte on Fox News, where he claimed that nearly 500 U.S. aircraft took off from American bases located in Italy. Rutte further alleged that the flights were conducted in support of what he described as Operation Epic Fury. Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto insisted that Rome rejected any requests to use its bases for combat missions. The Ministry of Defense said, and I quote, "In order to avoid unnecessary and specious controversies, the defense reiterates without fear of contradiction that Italy, and the Ministry of Defense, has always operated in full respect of the Constitution, international treaties, parliamentary guidelines, and the agreements that regulate the presence and use of Allied bases on national territory, without authorizing or allowing activities outside of the provisions in force." As already clarified during the briefing to Parliament by the Minister of Defense Guido Crosetto, the government has done exactly what was declared to the chambers. Only activities of a technical and logistical nature, non-kinetic, have been authorized within the framework of the procedures provided for by the existing agreements. Whenever a request arose that fell outside the scope, as is well known, Italy did not grant authorization. End quote. The Italian defense minister further accused the NATO chief of presenting what he called a totally misleading version of events. The Ministry of Defense said, and I quote, "For this reason, it is surprising that the NATO Secretary General, who has nothing to do with Operation Epic Fury, provides a reconstruction that conveys a totally misleading message by confusing the type of authorized flights. A simple check at the source would have sufficed. To obtain the true representation of what happened, and happens every day, Italy authorizes exclusively the flights provided for by the treaties and that totally exclude kinetic activities, as it has always done and as it will continue to do under the current agreements." End quote. The unusually strong rebuttal comes just days after US President Donald Trump accused Italy of offering little support during the Iran conflict. Trump made those remarks on June 20th, following the G7 summit in France, triggering a fresh spat with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni.
At this time, we are focusing and want to focus especially on the subjects, all of them, which allows us to contribute to European strategic autonomy. Particularly, I am referring to the SAMP/T program, the only European long-range air and missile defense system, designed and built entirely in Europe. A cooperation that we want to make increasingly stronger and is also demonstrated with the roadmap 2026 to 2031. But during this time, first with Ukraine and then with the Gulf, we have understood how advanced this system is and how much also can help us in the complex times in which we find ourselves. We want to enhance our collaboration also in the field of economic expenditure, as President Macron correctly mentioned.
On Mark Rutte's interview to Fox, Tehran this morning accused Italy of being complicit, of being jointly responsible for the aggression against Iran. I wanted to understand how you respond to this accusation, and then how the clarification with Rutte went if it was done. Italy, but also from other European countries, I want to understand if you have discussed it among yourselves and how much the detachment, the progressive detachment, of the United States from Europe worries you.
Thank you. As far as Iran is concerned, look, what Minister Crosetto has already said applies. I agree with every word Minister Crosetto has said between yesterday and today. We have not participated in the conflict in Iran. Furthermore, if we had participated in the conflict in Iran, forgive me, but this disappointment repeatedly expressed by the American president, as you know very often, would not be understandable. We have honored our commitments, clearly, by providing the basis for activities that were not kinetic but were of a logistical and technical nature. And when it was suggested, and you know this too because it has been widely reported, when requests were made that went beyond that perimeter, we did not grant the authorization, as I repeat is widely known. Thus, the government did exclusively what it declared in Parliament, as indeed Mark Rutte himself confirmed again yesterday from the Oval Office. The Secretary General, in his enthusiastic reconstruction, mixed together things that are actually different from each other, confusing the types of flights authorized, and he then corrected and clarified himself. Minister Tajani spoke today with his Iranian counterpart, and it seems to me that on the Iranian side as well it has been understood that, from this point of view, there was a misunderstanding.